Okay, they're some of the most important relationships in our lives, but navigating a friendship that has turned toxic can be challenging. Knowing how to spot the warning signs and when to step away isn't something that comes naturally to most.
Research has found that relationships between women can be particularly fraught, and with shows like the White Lotus bringing female friendships to the fore. What should we do when we sense something isn't quite right? And how do we confront issues without damaging ourselves or our loved ones? Vanessa Verschaw is a workplace psychologist and author, and she joins us now. Hi, Vanessa. Lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show this morning.
Your new book, let's talk about it. It's called The Sisterhood Paradox. We saw a great example of women having complex relationships with one another. That was in the latest season of The White Lotus. Can you explain the sisterhood paradox and why maybe females struggle a little bit more than men?
Yes, certainly. So, look, given what I do for a cracker, I probably see the best and worst of human nature. And so that was kind of the inspiration behind the Sisterhood Paradox, which is simply this. You know, we expect women to be kind, good-natured, supportive, to lift other women in life and work. And that's not always the case. In fact, all of the research shows us that actually we are at a breaking point in our relationships with one another, where incivility between women has risen by 59% in Australia. And the toxicity between women in the workplace is extending even to bullying relationships. In fact, bullying relationships are 70% more likely to be women bullying women at work. So learning how to deal with toxic relationships in your friendships is probably a good place to start to be able to then better manage your working life as well, which can become a little more complicated.
Okay, now you've got 4 steps for people to take if they are in a toxic relationship, with step 1 being acknowledge the reality. How can people identify if it is in fact time to walk away?
Yeah, no, great question. So you've really got to be able to recognise the signs. And obviously, if the thought of seeing one of your female friends is causing you to feel dread or anxiety or feel stressed, it's probably an indication that it's not really working for you. So the first thing is to really figure out, how does this relationship make me feel and why am I staying in it? So that's really the first one. The second one is choose your approach. So, you know, some relationships require a kind of a direct breakup conversation, and that's really quite important, which doesn't always happen. Others might benefit from a gradual distancing, but any way you slice it, you've actually got to really step in and deal with it, because sometimes we're prone to ghosting people rather than deal with the situation. And ghosting is a form of bullying, also known as the silent treatment. So be really careful about the approach that you use and make sure that it is respectful, it is with the intent to respectfully end the friendship, and it doesn't leave you actually becoming the person that you're trying to get away from.
Yeah. Setting boundaries is important in many aspects of our lives. What about this step 3 to friendships, and that's applying boundaries?
Look, I think boundaries are absolutely critical, irrespective of whether it be male or female, but particularly with these types of relationships. You've got to be firm and honest and let people know how you're feeling and why, and that you're just not getting the same feeling from the friendship anymore. Give some of the examples, and that you really need to move on, but always be respectful and kind in dealing with these situations.
Okay, now finally for us, a lot of people might feel sort of stuck in a relationship because they don't want to hurt the other person. So how do we tiptoe around that?
Yeah, and this is kind of the final point, which is about, you've got to kind of bury your guilt. There's a lot of guilt about leaving these relationships, and they come from, you know, either a sense of obligation. Think about high school friends that we've still got hanging around, and they did the dirty on us in high school, for example. You know, thinking about trying to play it nice, or also, you know, avoiding having those conversations. But your peace is paramount. So sometimes you've got to put yourself first for your own protection and survival. And that is a tough thing for many women, is to prioritise their own health and well-being. They tend to put other people first and be the sacrificial lamb. And in this case, in toxic relationships, please prioritise yourself and move away from that relationship that is actually causing you harm and stress.
Terrific, Vanessa. I reckon every single person watching this can relate to all of that. Thanks so much for your help.
Thanks so much for having me on the show this morning.
Okay.
Thanks, Vanessa. Vanessa Verschel's book is called The Sisterhood Paradox, and it's out now.